It's time for Remodel Revolution. And now, an award-winning contractor with over 40 years experience. Here is Alex Guthrie.
Welcome to another edition of Remodel Revolution Radio. I'm your host, Alex Guthrie. So glad you could be here with us today. It is a little bit warm outside. You're probably hoping you're inside. We have got a great show today. We're coming to you live from our new and improved Remodel Revolution world headquarters, deep in the heart of Texas, down in the bowels of the headquarters. They don't let us up in where the public can see us. And so I'm here today with my old friend, a guy I've known a long time, Mr. Steve Lauten. How are you, sir?
Good, Alex. How about yourself?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so glad you could make it today.
Glad I could too.
We've got a lot of ground to cover. Steve is the air conditioning expert I always go to, and he's my very dear friend, and we always have a lot to talk about. So I'm so glad he could be here with us today. Today's show, we're going to talk about a few things. When should you call a contractor? And this came up from an email that I got this week from a homeowner that was contacting me about giving him a price on some work he wants done on his house. And I thought it was a very timely subject for us to talk about, because we're getting to a certain point in the construction industry is kind of slowed down quite a bit. So people are doing a lot more remodeling. And one of the things that we have to learn how to do is sort of manage our time, manage our expectations, and make sure that you're not going willy-nilly calling everybody before you have all your information. So we're going to talk about that. Also, what's the best time of year to remodel or build or do an interior remodel? Maybe a room addition, whatever that is. I get that question a lot. We're going to discuss that a little bit. And then we're going to have tips and advice on dealing with the dog days of summer, especially for the next week or so, while it's at least the next 10 days or so, while the numbers on your weatherman screen are triples and they're getting bigger by the day, which we're used to down here in the Southwest. But I'll tell you, there's certain things that you want to deal with, some great advice. Steve has some great advice, and I've got some tips. But first, as always, today's contractor's tips brought to us by Total Air and Heat, my go-to heating and air conditioning company. Listen, anybody can tell you they work cheap, but cheap gets real expensive when the job isn't done right. Total Air and Heat employs honest, well-trained, and thoroughly background check technicians. That's why I never have to worry about their guys when I send them out to one of my clients' homes. Total Air and Heat is family-owned and operated into its third generation and has been a fixture in North Dallas for over 60 years. So give them a call, 972-881-0020, or contact them at totalair.com today. That's my good friend sitting next to me, Mr. Steve Lauten. And he and his son, Justin, are now running. Now, Justin's kids are too young.
Yeah, they're
You're like working for them.
2.5, 1.5, something like that. Yes, I just kind of show up and collect a check every once in a while and oversee the big picture. Justin operates the day-to-day stuff.
So are you having to say yes, sir, to Justin now? Instead of him saying yes, sir, to Dad, it's like yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir, son.
I don't think we've got to
You
that
haven't
point
got that
quite
far
yet.
Okay.
We do have mutual respect for each other. And
okay. All right.
still get a few eye rolls and stuff like that.
Well, after I had to start helping take care of my elderly mother, I decided I needed to be very nice and respectful and kind to my children.
It does kind of
Assuming I
change
make
your
it that
focus,
far.
doesn't it?
I tell you, it's a humbling experience.
Yeah.
So when is the best time or the worst time to remodel your home? Now, you can talk about it being a certain time of year or a certain time of life or whatever. I'm focusing on a time of year because this comes up a lot this time of year. We start getting, unfortunately, in August and sometimes earlier, we start getting calls from people wanting us to start something and be finished by the holidays. Wow. I don't always have good news for you with that because you've waited to the last minute. And I know you've been on vacation and all that good stuff, and congratulations. But it's not really the best time of year to start a major project. Now, if you have a contractor or a company that you work with a lot, and you can sometimes call them up and say, hey, can you send old Joe over here and have him
Right.
tweak a few things in the house, getting us ready for the holidays, that's fine.
I think a lot of people underestimate the actual amount of time it takes to complete a project. They don't have the time management aspect of it down, don't really understand everything that's required if you're going to do the job right.
Yeah, well, and especially now when we've been going through this super busy building period. We've had 3-4 years now of super intense activity in our industry, and we have a labor shortage. We have embargoes or whatever trade. I'm sorry, trade. Whatever
Tariffs.
That's it. Jeez, trade tariffs. Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
All those things. A couple of
Impacts us too.
a few hurricanes and things that cause us to have this sort of mass effort in rebuilding and things like that. So bottom line is we have a labor shortage and a material shortage. So depending on what you want to do, waiting 3 months or 4 months before Thanksgiving to try and get a project done is sometimes not very realistic, most of the time, depending on the project. Finish outs take longer. So now everybody likes hard, solid countertops. Okay, so they want natural stone or they want some sort of stone in there, and quartz maybe. Well, these things take fabrication time, and the fabrication time can take weeks. And there's a step-by-step way to do this. You have to have the cabinet in before you can order the countertop. You have to have the countertop in before you can set the plumbing. So there's all of these steps that have to be, these steps you have to take to get to the finished product, and everything takes time and scheduling. So you don't want to wait till the last minute. So let's talk about the best time of year. What do you think is the best time of year?
Well, I like it, excuse me, when it's not raining. So, because obviously you've got contractors coming in and out, and you want to keep the house still relatively neat inside. I've always liked spring. It just seems to me to be a good time of year to start doing fixer-upper stuff, in hopes of certainly getting it done maybe by the end of the summer, and well ahead of any kind of holiday deadlines that you have. Alex, how about yourself?
Okay, here's how I look at it from the builder perspective, the contractor perspective. I always tell my clients that between Thanksgiving and New Year's, you lose about 6 weeks of productive time. Not only do you have people going on vacation and you have the obvious, really a week in Thanksgiving, when you have a holiday in the middle of the week, figure that week's kind of a non-productive week. And then between Christmas and New Year's, you have 10 days. And so nothing really gets done there. But there's one other factor that a lot of people don't know. A lot of these big manufacturers, window and door companies, actually shut down for 2 or 3 weeks, or sometimes longer, over the holidays to allow everybody to get their vacation in at the same time, and particularly in colder climate states. I think they like their folks to be able to get out and, go to the beach. It probably helps things. But that scheduling wise, you have to learn to schedule around that and understand that that's really the reality of what we have to deal with. Plus, now we used to have, locally, we used to have our workforce that would all go to Mexico for Christmas.
Do.
They still,
I still do.
Yeah. Okay. And so you lose them for weeks.
A couple weeks typically.
Yeah. And so that used to be real common. And we all, it was like right after Thanksgiving, the town cleared out. We didn't have any more hourly workmen or laborers for a few weeks, and they always come back.
Also, a lot of these manufacturing plants need to retool or do maintenance. And so they try to pick a time of year where everybody knows the factory's shut down. You can go on vacation and we can make repairs or whatever we need to do in the factory while you're off. And it works for everybody.
Well, and it's interesting you said that, because a lot of times I'll have people in commercial businesses, schools, schools and other places like that. I've done a lot of sorority houses over the years, and they'll always want us in there during the holidays. So they may say, hey, you've got 3 weeks, or however long the vacation is. You've got 3 weeks. Get in here and get it done. Work 24/7. And we'll do that. And so the holiday period is really difficult to have a prolonged, productive run. You're going to have some lulls, and you're going to be waiting on people and waiting on things. Plus, like you said, weather. We're in our hardest weathery time of year. Now, if you're going to do an addition, and you're going to have your house exposed to the weather, like if we're tearing off the side of the house to add on, and that house for a period of time is going to have to be covered in plastic. I mean, this is just part of what has to happen. Then if you start in the middle of winter, then you will get what you deserve: cold. I shouldn't say you deserve it, but if you start in the middle of winter, you're exposing yourself to extreme weather.
Well, same with summer.
Same with summer.
Either way,
yeah,
you got to time it.
Yeah. And so with all that said, I prefer starting stuff, bigger projects, right after the holidays. I like to take the holiday time and plan for it and let everybody kind of get geared up and get ready to go. So if we're going to do additions and if we're going to do things that interfere with inside the house, and particularly if you have like a big family or big family activities, you're going to want to really think about doing stuff after the holidays. I always tell people that if I'm working on their house over the holidays, they'll certainly call me on Christmas Eve with a clogged up toilet. It has happened.
Absolutely. Seems like all those things go wrong for you when you want it the least.
So
like if you were going to do a big room addition or addition to the home, where you have to pour some slab also, you could probably do that without tearing out the side of the house first, get the lion's share of the groundwork done if possible, and then time the tearing out of that wall.
Absolutely. In fact, what I've done many times over the years, and I talk to my clients about this when we're going to do it, we'll hold off on tearing into the house until we have the entire building framed, tied into it, dried in, where we can control that as much as possible, but still remembering that we're introducing an unconditioned space most of the time. So I can have the walls and roof up, but I don't have air conditioning or heat in there. And so if it's super cold or super hot, it may affect you. But yeah, that's what they make coats for, and
portable heaters.
Yeah. Plastic.
Yeah.
Well, no, also you really don't want the dust and the guys and the mess and all that over the holidays. So try and time it. where you can avoid that if you can. Smaller things are different, obviously, but I think that's my favorite time to start bigger projects. Now, this summer, I will start anything, anytime, because we've had kind of a slow summer. So give us a call. Next, when should you call a contractor? And this is from an email that I got this week. I got an email from a guy that found me on House, on the big website, and he's a local person, and he sent me this email, and he wanted to know if I could give him a price to do these. He named 3 or 4 projects on his house. And I said, and so I picked up the phone and I called him, which he was kind of surprised. It popped up. I saw the number. I called him. And I realized that a lot of time people call me, and one of the questions I asked him, I didn't ask him, he actually kind of volunteered it, was, how many people have you contacted? And I will ask you that. And I'm not asking you that because I'm worried about competition. I'm asking you that because if you call me and you have no plans and you have no budget and you have no time you want to start, or no information about your project, and tell me you've sent it to 3 or 4 other people, we're going to have a short conversation.
Well, the reality is, Alex, is that so many of these people haven't a clue as to how much a project's going to cost. So
Right.
they got to start somewhere.
Well, no, and that's fine. But if you're doing most things to a house, so my advice, let me back up and just tell you what my advice to him was. So, because you're absolutely right. And so the first thing I said is, what's your budget?
Right.
Do you have a budget? Yeah, it's a reasonable question. He gave me his budget. And I said, which part are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he's like, what?
All of it?
All of it? And I said, no. That's, I thought you were talking about the design budget. I'm actually talking about for the project. And like you say, he has no clue. He has no clue what things cost. And so my recommendation to him, and anybody that calls me with this type of question, is always to develop a plan. So first thing is, I told this guy, nice guy, I said, you need to call an architect. Don't call another builder. Don't call another contractor. Don't waste their time or your time. Spend that little smidgen of a budget you've got on a design, because that will save you more money than you can imagine, and time and frustration, and you won't be let down nearly as bad when you start getting these numbers.
We'd run up against that a lot in air conditioning too. People will have a company out, give them a price to replace it, then call us up and say, well, how much is a 4-ton system?
Right.
And we tell them, well, what size circuit breaker do you have? What is the size of your refrigerant lines? Do you have enough ductwork?
Get technical with them. So
Yeah, and it's not intentional, but we want to give them the best price we can, but also accurately bid the project. So we'd like to come out and see it, but the reality is that people have to have something to work with. And so, like you said, an architect's kind of like having the conductor of the orchestra, where at least you've got a sheet of music that you're following.
It's the installation instructions.
Yeah.
And so you have, and it doesn't have to be a big detailed plan that shows every nut and bolt and every doorknob. It doesn't have to be that. You can get a draftsperson. If you're doing something where you're adding to your house or moving walls or somehow rearranging stuff, it could be a simple line drawing with notes on it. The best case scenario for a contractor is to be handed that piece of paper with finish notes on it. I want wood floors. I want this particular wood floor. I want this particular wood floor installed this particular way. I mean, as much detail as you can give, because everything is subject to the person doing the work, the cost of it, the timing of it, the quality of it. And so when you have if you leave it wide open, you leave it open to their interpretation, you really don't know if you're getting apple to apple pricing. You don't know what the cost is going to be.
Absolutely, Alex. I tell a lot of our customers, picture this. You give 3 home builders all the materials, identical land, materials, and everything to build a home. Do you believe that each of those homes going to be built exactly the same, or maybe one of those builders does a much better job with the detail aspects of using the same materials? Building a home is a craft. And unfortunately, the good old days when every builder knew every aspect of the job and most of it was done by him, many builders just become project managers, and that's where the disconnect happens on a lot of projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I used to say and it started with me in the 90s, really, when I realized that a lot of these so-called builders were actually just salesmen. I mean, they were nice guys. They were providing a decent product, but they were not really knowledgeable about the product that they were building. They were depending on their subcontractors for that. So of course, a plant now in the 70s and 80s, we were getting house plans on napkins. They would they would sit in the bar and have a few drinks, and they'd say, "Hey, maybe we ought to build one like this. It'll fit on that lot perfect." That's literally what they would hand us, and there was a little trouble from that. But anyway, that's another story. So the more detail that you can give, and before you call a bunch of people, this is what this is really all about. Before you start calling a whole bunch of people on the internet, make sure that you have as much detail as you can come up with. Do your homework. And then, of course, do your homework regarding the person that you intend to hire. Make sure that you've checked a couple of references on them. Make sure that you feel confident that the budget is going to work for you. Now, it's just sort of always been a common problem in remodeling where people get towards the end of the project and money gets tight. And they start struggling to pay the bills. And when you don't pay the people to work there, they're not going to show up and work. So everything starts going downhill from there. And so make sure that you're comfortable with your budget. One of the things I advised this particular guy to do was to have, because he wanted to do like an outdoor living area with a kitchen and a hot tub and a this and a that. And I said, well, get an independent architect. Don't go and find a landscaper that says, I'm a landscaper architect. I don't have anything against them. But I believe that if you have an independent person design that project, and then you can hand it to the landscape architect, that's fine. He can make changes on it if he wants, he or she. But have an independent person design that thing, so that you're handing everybody something from an independent designer. You're getting apples for apples. You're getting it says, this is what we're going to do. This is what it's going to cost. Now, you've got the plan. You've got all of the specifications on it. You've handed it to everybody. Then you have to go through the pricing. And then you have to sit there and go through all the little details that they're proposing. You want to make sure they're proposing the same thing that is on that plan, every one of them.
And they're doing it all the same way. There's so many variables involved in the right way and the wrong way to do something, but the materials are identical. Most of the time, the variances is in the labor side of it and how you go about installing those materials.
And what I explained to this guy was that if you can't budget the entire project, fine. You've got a big plan. So you can come back and you can build to that plan over years if you want. I've done it for several homeowners over the years. and they'll call us every couple of years and say, okay, now we're ready to do this part. Now we're ready to do that part. So you're always building towards the final product that you want. So in the case of this phone call I got, he wanted to do an outdoor patio cover. He wanted to do a fire pit. He wanted to do an outdoor kitchen, maybe a hot tub. He wasn't sure. And so when I started asking him, well, what kind of, do you want a stone patio, or are you going to do big cedar, or how are you going to do? Well, I don't know.
Yeah.
I said, how many contractors have you called? Well, I'll probably sent this out to 2 or 3 people. Or do they know what you want?
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my point. And that was an email I got this week. And I get them, quite honestly, I get that fairly frequently when people are sort of kind of kicking the tires, and that's fine. But my advice is to get your plan done first. Even if you want to do it, get that part done first. I have been working with Hargrave Foundation for several years, and I really, really, really like them. And I'm going to tell you, it's not always a question of do I call the foundation company or don't I call the foundation repair company, because sometimes you just got to call them. And I'm going to tell you something. If I told you that I knew a foundation company that would tell you if you don't need work done, would you believe me? Because that's what Hargrave Foundation will do. They'll go out and tell you if, hey man, you just need to water your foundation better. We don't need to stick any piers in the ground. They have been in business for over 50 years. It's a family-owned business. It's one of the last family-owned businesses, foundation businesses in North Texas. And not only are they honest, they know what causes your foundation to move, and they know how to fix it. Don't be duped by fly-by-night foundation companies that provide shortcuts and messy fixes. Call Foundation Repair at 972-442-3415. Randy Hargrave is highly regarded in the construction industry among the professionals and homeowners alike. And I know several home builders and remodelers that will not do a foundation without calling Randy, and I'm one of them. Randy uses the Chance helical pier system. It is a high quality helical pier, and for those of you that don't know what a helical pier is, it is a big screw that goes in the ground. Give them a call, 972-442-3415, or contact them at hargravefoundation.com. This is a time of year that you want that phone number, isn't it? It's
Yes.
hot. It's dry. Ground's drying up, kind of cracking up. Randy's going to be here. I think it's next week or week after Ziggy. 2 weeks. Ziggy says 2 weeks. And we're going to probably have a lot to talk about with foundation movement, because that ground's drying up right now. It's drying out. And what happens that a lot of people don't realize is when it gets super dry for a super long period of time, super hot, and that moisture is evaporating out of the ground, if you have a slab home, that moisture is coming out from under your slab, and it's like soil is like a sponge. So when it's wet, it's swollen and it's supporting it, and you kind of have a natural moisture content under in a typical season under your home. When that dries out and that moisture shrinks away, dries up, shrinks away, it can leave voids, cracks, and your foundation's going to move.
Absolutely. It's kind of like if you have a door that sticks in the wintertime, but in the summertime it opens and closes just fine. That's foundation movement.
And and people will call me and they'll say, "Can you come over and adjust the doors?" I'm like, "Don't do it."
Yeah.
just put a door stop in front of it. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
But we'll have Randy on. It's going to be really a lot of fun. We're really looking forward to it. So I have a couple of questions for you, because the weather it's turning into summer finally.
Yes, it's a little bit late this summer. Normally we've seen some stretches of 100-degree days back in June and July. We had one or two maybe, But then we've had summers where it was over 100 every day, 90 days straight.
Right. Oh, I remember that summer.
Yeah.
I'm still suntan from that summer, and that was 20 years ago.
I hear you.
In fact, I had a full head of hair that summer, but not at the end of it.
Maybe the summer is what caused you to lose it all.
I think that my hair was acting like little, little wicks on a firecracker. It just went away. And I'm kind of glad it did, because I'm saving on shampoo.
Absolutely.
Who needs a bunch of shampoo anyway?
That's true.
Real men use Ivory soap.
Do you condition your scalp and everything with it?
I condition my scalp with my beautiful hands.
Oh, massage it.
Yeah.
Got it.
Got it. Right. My wife gives me a head massage every night. She's a good woman. So how hard is a typical air conditioning system running when the temperature is around 100 degrees?
Alex is running just as fast as it can, and sometimes not fast enough. We size air conditioners based on regions of the country. And for example, in Dallas, Texas, we typically try to design it where you can maintain a temperature of 80 degrees indoors when it's 102 to 105 outside.
So about a 20
to 25 degree split between indoors and outdoors. So if it's 100 out, you should be able to maintain 75.
And so that doesn't mean like the whole house. It just means that kind of like on average. I mean, most houses will have, like, you'll go,
Couple of degrees difference.
I have to
Vary
go.
from room to
I
room.
have to go into the master bathroom to stay cool. But that happens. And so a 20-degree variance is really a design. It's called, what do you call it? A design load, or whatever you all call that stuff. And I know that you'll get a lot of these phone calls, as I get them too, and from people going, well, what am I going to do when it's like 110 outside? Well, sit still and turn on a fan.
Yep, you can certainly do that. And there are other things you can do.
You can go to Colorado.
Yeah, absolutely. You can also add insulation.
You could do that. You could do that.
Windows, especially ones that face west,
Yeah.
need to be good windows that block out as much of that solar gain as you can. And air conditioners are like cars. They've got to be maintained. And of all the things I see going on with air conditioning systems, consistently, most people don't think about them or do anything to them until they break.
Well, why would they?
Well, unlike a car that you're in every day and maybe it's got reminders on it that it's time to get serviced, most air conditioning systems don't have a reminder. The newer ones do.
The reminder is when it quits running.
Yeah, that absolutely. But there's an in between there. All an air conditioner does is move the heat that's in your home to outdoors.
Yeah.
And so if your filter's dirty, if your indoor cooling coil's dirty, your outdoor cooling coil's dirty, or you just are a little bit low on refrigerant, all of those things are going to show up as a problem.
So I'm just
when it's the hottest
I'm just
outside.
a regular person. I'm a 25-year-old person, male or female, doesn't matter.
Well,
I don't
trying
care
to
about
vision that.
anything but that thermostat. I see a thermostat, and I know it's just kind of hot in the house. I can't get it to cool off. What do I do?
My recommendation is you pick up the phone and call us. And if you haven't had anything done to your system in the last few years, let us come out and look at the system many, many times. It's just a matter of cleaning the outdoor unit and the indoor unit and making sure that you have a clean filter. And that can make the difference between being able to maintain 75 on a 100-degree day or 80 degrees on a 100-degree day.
And that's a whole lot. That's a whole lot when you're in the middle of 5 degrees can make or break you. So there are some really interesting systems people are going to start pushing on TV. like misting the condensing coil outside,
Oh no.
things like that. Let's take that one because that'll be the first one we see. This brand new, can't missed that coil, get it wet all day long, and it'll stay cool, and man, it'll drop the temperature 10 degrees.
Well, Alex, there's some aspects of that are correct. If you spray water on your outdoor unit's coils, it's gonna work a little bit better. I mean, there's no
It's
doubt
going to
about
cool
it.
off. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll cool your house better, and of course, your water bill will go up a little bit, but your electric bill drops probably more than your water bill goes up.
Okay.
Where we run into the problem is, number one, you just got to connect it to a hose, which is city water. It's got chlorine in it
Right.
For safety purposes and lots of minerals. So you spray that water on the air conditioner, and the water evaporates, but the minerals stay there. The chlorine starts corroding metal in particular, and before you know it, you've got a rust bucket of an air conditioner, and all of a sudden it's just falling apart.
You have a moss farm.
Yeah, you could have that too. So, don't do that. The only scenario that I would support spraying water on an air conditioner would be if you went to the trouble of capturing the condensate from your air conditioner, which that doesn't have minerals in it. It's distilled water, and you could spray that on the unit. I don't recommend that. I do recommend, though, if you want to capture the condensate and use it for water in your yard a lot of other things.
Which you end up kind of doing anyway because it's all dripping out there most of the time, except for the part that's tied to the city, the drain behind the sink or whatever.
Yeah, and for the record, if you've got dripping water coming out of your eave from the emergency drain line, call us, because that means your primary drain line isn't doing what it's supposed to.
You mean when you look up and you see this big rusty, it looks like a rusty waterfall on the outside
On the eave of the
wall,
house and down the side of it, you got all these rust marks
Yeah,
going
it's
down.
cool.
Yeah, that'd be it. That's
and
the
I
one.
say, and I'll ask the homeowner, you might have a problem there. Really?
I never have liked it. They put that in front of a window, so when it's got water coming out, I see it, and it hits my head. That's why they put it there, so you can ignore it.
So if you see water coming out of your eaves, call the air conditioning person. That's your first call, because you probably have a clogged up system. So Steve was talking about to help affect temperature control and keep it comfortable in your home is adding insulation. Now, this week I was up in an attic, and I think it was maybe not quite 100 degrees outside, and it had black shingles, and the attic is built up where it was a second floor addition on a house. And so the bedrooms upstairs have actual roof coming partway up the wall, and then the wall goes like this. And so there's about half of the height of that wall in the bedroom that shares attic behind it.
Yeah.
And that attic was like an oven. I mean, it was super hot. Now, they had insulated, they had put some venting up there, but I could immediately tell that I just didn't feel, you can feel it because you walk up there and it's like real still. Of course it's going to be hot. It's summertime. It's a black roof. Why we put black roofs in the Southwest, I have no idea.
It looks pretty.
I guess that's why. So what we were talking about, we were up there to look at doing a radiant barrier.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a huge believer in radiant barrier.
Me too.
And so radiant barrier, because now in this house, one end of the house, the system's on one end of the house. The master suite is on the other end of the house, and they have an extra air conditioning, a little room air conditioner, because they just cannot get it cool in the summer.
Yeah.
And why is that?
Most of the time is because the duct system wasn't laid out right. It doesn't have balancing dampers on it because air likes to take the path of least resistance. So obviously the room that's got the furthest run is going to struggle unless you throttle back some of the air in those short duct runs. The other thing is duct leakage. And most homes have 30%, 25, 30% duct leakage, your air conditioning, your attic. And then, like you mentioned in this case, not only did it have a black roof, but the ceiling went right up there to the roof joists.
Right.
And-
Sharing attic.
And then it had knee walls exposed to the attic. Most walls exposed to the attic, all they do is put on this one bat of insulation
Right.
that equals the height of the board itself.
And they even had on this particular house, they had radiant barrier on the walls in the attic. That was great, but they didn't put it on the roof. And so what is a typical scenario? What Steve is talking about is when you have the system at one end of the house and the room at the other end of the house isn't cooling. It's because your duct is running the length of the house in the attic, and if you don't have that protected from the heat with radiant barrier or foam or something, then that duct, that air just heats up. It cannot stay cool all the way through that thing. And particularly when it's not blowing, which now this time of year, we don't have to worry about that. It blows 24 hours a day. But if it sits there in that duct, it's just heating up. And when that baby kicks off, the first thing it's going to do is like you could cook popcorn under you.
Yeah, you get a little blast of moist,
Yeah.
hot air,
Right,
you know?
right. And so one of the biggest problems we have in most forced air systems, particularly in our part of the world, is air leakage. And tell us what air leakage is.
Well, it's pretty straightforward, Alex. Obviously, the duct that runs through your attic isn't one piece. It's got joints on it that connects to the furnace or air handler in the attic. And then it has what we call typically some Ys in it and splits off. And everywhere where there's a joint, there's the potential of leakage, especially if you have an all metal duct system. That tape gave up the ghost a long time ago, and you're just dumping air in the attic. But even on newer duct systems, it can do that too.
So what's the typical, we used to say there was sort of an average percentage of air leakage, and I think it was 30 to 60%. Is that right?
Hopefully it's not 60, but 30 is pretty darn close. So if you got a 5-ton system, you're leaking 1 ton of air conditioning in the attic.
Keeping the squirrels happy.
That and I've always questioned the concept of putting the equipment and the duct in the
to
attic.
begin
Why would you go to the attic to make ice cream?
Right.
But it's all about the floor plan and the prettiness of the house and stuff.
Well, and the available space that you have,
Absolutely.
and it's just I still think this the entire now you were born and raised in the air conditioning industry. Your dad and his brother were pioneers in Dallas,
Right.
developing forced air,
Yes.
and so you understand sort of the ins and outs. Most of us don't understand all that, but forced air is essentially exactly what it says. We're forcing air into the house to condition it, right?
Yes.
And we're pulling air out
Back to the system.
back to the system.
Yeah, and so when the air leaks in the attic, the return air is still looking for that same amount of air to come back to it, and it's not there. So it puts your house at a negative pressure, and that means that it's going to look for that air, pulling it in around windows, the sole plates where your walls meet the foundation. If those aren't sealed,
You'll
around
see
doors.
dusty spots. Like I'll walk in a house and I'll see around light fixtures in the ceiling. I'll see dust up on the ceiling.
Those
or I'll
can
see,
lights, yeah.
can lights are notorious for it. Or like Steve said, the plates, the switch plates and the plug plates that are there, or even around the baseboard of the house. And one of the biggest filtering areas in your house is your carpet.
Well, absolutely, because especially if you're in a negative pressure in the house, it's trying to make up that air. So it pulls it from outside, and your carpet runs right there to the baseboards, and the carpet's acting as an air filter for that dirty air coming in from outdoors. So if you got a house that is always dirty at the edges of the outside walls, you've got some duct leakage going on in that house, and we could probably help you out.
And you probably can't vacuum enough.
True.
That's been my experience anyway. We really appreciate you taking time out for us today, and it's been so much fun. It's always fun to have you here.
Glad to be here, Alex.
And,
always like to
We
get
could
on
go
board with
another
you.
hour like we always do.
Yeah, we can do that. I mean, there's just so much opportunity to help people out there.
I think the next time we have you on, we're going to have to do the air filter demonstration, because it is classic. Steve has a classic air filter demonstration of why you should not use certain types of air filters on your house. Hey, if you're looking for a contractor and you're thinking about doing a remodel, or you want to do a room addition or even build a house, give me a call. Contact me at alex@alexguthrie.net. alex@alexguthrie.net, or call me 469-446-8508, and we'll be happy to come out and consult and do your work or whatever you want to do. Always love meeting new people. And also next week we'll have Carolyn Blaznovsky. She was going to be with us today, but she had a family emergency and couldn't be here, so we're hoping that all gets worked out for the best, and that Carolyn is able to be here with us next week. I want to thank my engineer, Mr. Ziggy Becker. He is keeping us going here and making us look like we know what we're doing, even though he asked me when I got in here why I did not have on my makeup. I don't know why he said that. He said something about a glare. I don't know. It's not even fair. Thank you so much for being with us today, and thank you for participating in Remodel Revolution. I hope you're enjoying the show. Go to our website, remodelrevolutionradio.com. You can click on our Facebook page, our Instagram, our podcast. The podcast will be up later today or tomorrow for this show. Great information. Don't miss it. We'll be back every Wednesday at 10 a.m. We look forward to having you, and send me questions. Send me some questions if you want on email. Email them to me if you have any particular subjects you want us to talk about while we're on the air. We're happy to do it. Send us any kind of information you want about a project that you're doing or a project you're thinking about doing. If you're having an issue with it, contact me at alex@remodelrevolutionradio.com, or you can contact us through our Facebook page, and we'll be happy to answer it on the air. And you never know, we may invite you to call in, or we may Zoom. That's what we're doing these days because it's all video. Thank you so much for being here, and until next week, this is Alex Guthrie checking out. Have a great week.
You can catch Remodel Revolution anytime. Follow the show on the website, remodelrevolutionradio.com, or on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest, using the handle @Remodel Revolution Radio. You can always listen to the show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and TuneIn, and watch the show anytime on YouTube.